Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fialka. Today's November 9, 2025. Want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. Please subscribe. Also want to thank Keith Nightenhelser for introducing me to today's guest, Lew Worthington. Where are you calling from, Lew?
I am calling somewhere near Providence, Rhode Island right now.
How cool is that? The first question is, what's the best thing for a human being?
I think the best thing is love. It is
Yeah.
a self-replicating virtue. I mean, it's a virtue for one thing, so that's cool. It's self-replicating, and it seems to be one of those things that is reflective. So we give love, we get love back.
It's really well put. I love how you put that. And I do get that answer a lot. I agree wholeheartedly. What's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
You know, I've heard that question from you before, and I think it's a great question. For me, it depends on what kind of information because I learn a lot by talking with people, but I'm not much of a innate conversationalist. I like to listen to people. I like to talk to people, but I'm also kind of a book guy. So I really love to read, but there's certain kinds of information that I cannot consume merely by reading. So maybe a combination of both, but be put to one's probably through other people.
Yeah. Did you become a reader, one, because your parents told you to, two, they did it as an example, or three, on your own?
Probably largely on my own. My mother maybe accidentally got me into books. And so my father went to college very briefly. He was always very smart, but he wasn't a reader. My mom did very well in school, but it was because she had an objective to accomplish, not because she loved to read. And so I thought, in order to become like my parents, I got to start reading.
Yeah.
So it was really almost a misinterpretation of the way my parents were, but then it kind of became my own thing.
Beautiful. You're really articulate and concise, Lew. I appreciate this. Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Um, I think once we get started, it's hard to stop. I think as a species, I think we have things we want to accomplish. And so I think most of the time it is because we want to accomplish something either collectively or individually. Um, Maybe curiosity is a part, but I think maybe instinctively, maybe evolutionary, from an evolutionary standpoint, curiosity develops because we need to keep information flowing into us, and so we collect it.
Right. So the question I follow up, you sort of answered is it more innate or more invented collecting information?
Yeah, that's almost like that nature versus nurture question, and so maybe part of it, and then uh, part of it is innate, but once we get like this a social expectation, it might be something that we're just kind of we learn from one another, and then human beings are competitive. So when I see somebody else accumulating information and reaping benefits from that, I'm going to want to do the same thing too.
Really good. Do thoughts create emotions?
I think so. I think it also work, works in reverse,
Yeah.
but and I don't want to be in the land of TMI, but I know one of the issues I have is sometimes I create a narrative that is not necessarily healthy for me. Like when I'm golfing, for example, I'm thinking that everybody out there is looking at me, waiting to laugh at my next bad shot, and so it creates a real bad narrative. It is not true, but I
Right.
have an emotional reaction to this false narrative. And so it's a thought that really feeds into my emotions. And it can work the other way. It can also be a narrative I tell myself that has a positive outcome. But definitely for me, my thoughts create emotions.
Fill in the blank, Lew. I don't know what I think until I.
This is going to sound um, like a tautology. It's almost like I'm defining your question with a question or something like that. But I don't know what to think until I think about it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't do much instinctively, and one of my points of anxiety about this chat that we're having is sometimes a few minutes after a conversation ends, I think, I should have said something different there
yeah.
because I hadn't thought about it yet, and then when I have time to think about it, I second guess almost everything I say.
That's good. My mom, I asked her once, can I interview you? And she goes, yeah, everything I say today, I might say differently tomorrow. I says, that's all right. So I want people to feel that it's just, we're living in the moment, that we're constantly in flux. And that's the human condition. We're always
Yeah,
changing. But well, Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. McLuhan says, I
yeah.
don't know what I think until I say it. But think about it is good. Can humans think without language?
Well, I think that's been a topic in the world of philosophy for a while, and I I think there are ways to have thoughts and ideas where there's not a semantic representation of what we think. And maybe it goes back to your question about the relationship between thoughts and feelings, because sometimes I think we can develop targeted cognitive effort in response to our feelings as well. And we don't necessarily have words that attach to that, but we still think something about it.
Yeah. Chomsky says language is not just words, it's a culture, a tradition, a whole unification of community. And it's a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Keep talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, I know there's a lot of heartache and a lot of conflict based on misunderstanding and words that were maybe too uh, poorly thought out, and yeah, that whole system that Chomsky talks about. And it's not just the words. Sometimes our intent in communication comes across badly too. And what I do personally, sometimes we just have to continue communicating. Sometimes stepping back and trying to communicate better, more
Yeah.
lovingly. And sometimes the key is not to say anything, but just listen. Most
Yeah.
people I know are not good listeners because they they stop talking just long enough to reload. And I think taking time to really listen, not just to have a correlator to what Chomsky said, not just listen to the words, but really hear what's behind the words of our communication partner, I think will go a long way.
Really good, Lou. You have ESP because I was just going to say to you, you're a good listener because you went off on your answer and then you go, but what happens when it happens to me personally? So you really focused in. I appreciate that. Your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking or more feeling beings?
I think we claim to be thinking. I really think, listen to me, maybe I really feel. I think people misuse that expression, but most of what we do is probably more instigated by our feelings to things.
Yeah.
And sometimes we use our thinking to justify our actions based on those feelings.
Amazing. Because most 80% of people go, I think we're more feeling beings. And my friend would literally go, oh, I'm in the contrary. I feel we're more thinking beings. But
I love that.
Bridget Bardot says, when I make love, I don't think. I'm like, good luck. How do you turn your brain off? It's like your inner dialogue. Like there's a bumper sticker on my street that says, don't believe everything you think. And I'm like, well, you could say, don't believe everything you feel.
you know, yeah, yeah. There was a book I remember years ago, written by a guy whose perspective I probably wouldn't align well with, but it was a book about whether to trust your feelings.
Yeah.
And there's just a certain level of isness about our feelings, whether they are trying to, whether they have a, I don't know, a volition of their own or not is, a completely different issue. But are they trying to persuade us to be something, feel something, think something that is inauthentic or something? I don't know. It is a complicated mess. I will
Yeah.
confess to that.
Yeah, we invented the words feeling and thinking, so we think we can separate them. We probably can't. They're so intertwined. But
Well said.
it's good to talk with you about this. You're really uh, doing well, and I'm learning a lot. I appreciate this. These are two questions from Turing in the 50s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
Touring. I was hoping you wouldn't bring him up.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm kidding. Wow, that would. Um, I'm trying to penetrate the meaning of each of the components of that question.
exactly.
Yeah, and I am, because I maybe it's a useful heuristic to separate human beings into components like that. I think people are holistic enough,
Yeah.
just kind of by our nature, that it's hard to separate any of those. So, if all of our components are in a Venn diagram, I am sure that there is a big nugget in the middle where everything overlaps.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, so I think yes, but maybe not in the um, one directional sense that maybe he had in mind.
It's really interesting how you tackled that. That's beautiful. The second Turing question is, can machines think?
No, I,
Yeah.
not in any, not yet, not, and I'm not, I mean, boy, AI is really making an impact now, but it's all uh, by imitation. I play chess, and I am so amazed at how much differently chess players behave, even in theory, because of the impact of computers, where they train with these machines and the moves they come up with now would not even have been thought of years ago, because we know now that some of these remote moves that are almost ironic to the position are playable, and sometimes the best move, because we've been taught by machines not to see move sequences in the same way. I don't think that's thinking, though. I think that's calculation, which I think is a different beast.
Yes. Really good. I like that what you said. Now, do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Um, Analogous to the thinking versus feeling question, I know a lot of people say that they're logical and they will do the thing that makes the most sense to them, and end up doing something irrational based on feelings. Um I'm sorry, repeat those two components again.
Do you more pursue happiness
Happiness or
or more
meaning?
pursue meaning? Yeah.
Yeah. I again, Gerry, that's a good question, because both of those have been topics of philosophers for quite a while, and um, I, I want to be in a place where um, I achieve happiness through meaning,
Yeah.
maybe, where I help other people, and maybe as a wonderful serendipitous byproduct, all of a sudden, happiness becomes a component of my life.
I got the question from Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. I'm curious your reaction to this, what he says. He says meaning tends to last, happiness doesn't necessarily last.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And knowing where Frankl is coming from, it resonates well with me. And I mean, given what his situation was, um, uh, that really makes a lot of sense. Happiness seems to be um, mood or situation based, maybe more than
Yeah,
meaning.
it's interesting. Yeah. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it?
Yeah. Boy, that is a really tough question. I love the question. Um, but I'm wondering if there is this innate consciousness that uh, is built into our brain, where our awareness of consciousness, it's almost like uh, it gives a kickback, and so it creates it because it's aware of it
Yeah.
already.
It's
And I really wonder if this is something that can be defined in observable and measurable ways, that not just like a philosopher, not just but psychologists could do experiments to find out exactly how that function works. It's a good question. I don't really have, I'd like more information about that, because I'm afraid my intuition about that might be based on absolutely no data,
yeah.
and I don't want to go there.
It was really good what you said though, and I'm for impulse, intuition, and percept on all these, because people go, "Well, I'm not a scientist, I can't answer that." I says, "Well, it's just your hunch or your guesses." But I'm after
Right?
just
Yeah.
like this one. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Oh, you know, um, taking a relativistic approach to that. You know, taking a relativistic approach, if we are in that spaceship that's going the speed of light, we're not going to have any thoughts, right? Because time slows down. Um, if if we take a physiological approach, then the neurons are not going to fire any faster than the speed of light. So I think speed of light is faster.
The poet Audre Lorde said, "You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools." Her colleague Yvonne Rainer said, "Oh, you can if you expose the tools." What new tool do you suggest? And it doesn't have to be tangible.
Oh, the master's house. So I know you told me to answer this in whatever context
It's
I choose, right?
Yep.
Um, it, it's there are a lot of situations in life where, when you see the tools, there's less mystery, less magic in whatever is constructed. Um, and um, I know I will answer something completely different when
So
this
what?
interview is over, right? But uh, perseverance is one tool that has been meaningful to me in any uh, context that I build around that question. Um, and knowing that the tools are there, knowing um, how the sausage is made, so to speak. Um, every time I don't know, I've actually made sausage before, so I kind of understand some of what goes on to make something. Um, with different tools available to me, I think every time I do that, I might do it differently. So perseverance is one thing, but that in itself implies that the next time I do it, it might be a different tool.
It's a great tool, though. I love it. Perseverance. I aspire to that myself. Lou, what toy do you gravitate towards? I ask everybody about their tool of preference. Then someone said, well, what about a toy? So what's a toy you'd gravitate towards?
I'm going to reveal my nerdy self. I have this huge electronic theological library. Yeah, my wife is sitting next to me. She goes, uh-huh. And I sometimes I have a project that I want to do some particular area of research. But even when I don't have a specific project, I just love looking at this thing and reading. And that, I've got, I don't know, 12, 13,000 books in that thing. And it allows me to, and now they've got AI built into it. So I can even ask something like, what's the current thinking of phenomenology? And it'll point me to some articles that are in my library. And so it is just kind of a fun toy that's really meant to be a tool.
I love that toy. I go to the library every day, and in any form, libraries are key for me.
Oh, yeah.
What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
It really depends on what night. What as I mentioned when we first connected today, I am a pancreatic cancer survivor. And one of the components, and I'm just getting back from a what we call a summit of survivors of that disease. And one of the common areas of conversation among we pancreatic cancer survivors is when we get a scan or when we get a blood test, we go to bed and a lot of us are awake at night until we get that result. And so many of my nights, especially the ones without sleep, involve thinking about hoping that next scan or next blood test is a good one.
Wow. What's the time frame about? A couple hours, or could take 10 hours?
Yeah. So one of the indicators for blood test is called CA19-9. When I get a blood test, I get a full panel, lots of different tests. Most of them, the results come in within a couple of hours. The CA19-9, the one that is most important in terms of, pancreatic cancer, doesn't come in until like 3 or 4 in the morning on the following day. So it's like 36 hours later after the other ones. And so it is a long period of potential anxiety.
You got to find something to distract you. Well, McLuhan learned from a poet that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Lou, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
I don't know. And it's a funny thing. It's a great observation. It's a funny thing because, classical Greek times, the poets were, they were worried that they had too much clout. Now I don't think they have enough. Being a child of the 60s and 70s, a lot of the war protests and things like that were being made by musicians and having a lot of impact. And all the while, technology was being applied to make deadlier and quote more effective weapons. And we are such a technological society that we maybe have undue respect for what technology can do without really listening to any of the implications of what it might develop as a side effect, or sometimes as its primary intended effect, which can also be sometimes very negative.
Taught me a lot there, Lou, because I'm doing a panel discussion on political poetry or poetry as political activism. So we got,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, we got the great Keith to tell us what you just taught me. The Greek poets thought they had too much clout. I want to know more about that, and he's the one to turn to in that regard. But
Hmm.
do artists have moral obligation?
That reminds me of what Charles Barkley. Remember him,
Yeah,
basketball player. People were saying, "You're a role model. You should do this and that and that." He said, "I'm no role model. I'm just going to live my life," or something akin to that. And I really like the guy. I think he's I think he's a good human being.
yeah,
But he was unwilling to embrace the assumed influence he has on the lives of other people, especially young people that want to be a basketball player. Um, there are a lot of things. I don't want to be judgy, but I think we all have certain moral obligations that are routinely um, hard to meet. To take a really lame example, I used to work in an office where we all appreciated one another, but there were some people you would say good morning to. It might be a miserable day outside. Good morning. And they would just turn and look at you and not say anything back. And I'm thinking, I wonder if that person has a moral obligation at least to smile and acknowledge so that we can build up some level of mutual um, optimism about the day. I don't know if I would call it an obligation, but it is maybe more of an opportunity. And so, if I were a poet, I would want to embrace that opportunity and make the world a better place, not just a more entertained place.
yeah. I have a big problem about that. When I walk down the street, I try to acknowledge the person I'm walking by with a nod or a wave. And if they just totally ignore me, I want to yell out.
Yeah.
I want
Yes.
I want to yell out to them, and I have, but it's like, no, don't do that, Jerry, because you don't know they might have their mom might have died that day, and they're in a
Yeah.
depression. But
You're absolutely right.
I was a
Yeah.
poll cat for 15 years. So all my neighbors who would never say hello to me, they'd come up to vote and they would sign their name and they go, "Oh, I see you all the time." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, why don't you at least acknowledge each other?" But I think it's a bad problem I have because it's what you just articulated. Do we have an opportunity to nod to another person? And it is,
Can I ask you a question, Jerry?
sure.
Are are you more introverted or extroverted?
I would say more extroverted. I mean,
Hmm.
I try to be friendly and nod to people, but I mean, people nod to me and I don't nod back sometimes. I'm like, whoa, you just, but I mean, in general, I want to acknowledge another person walking down the
Hmm.
street. I think
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
important. Most of them are
Appreciate that.
too,
Thanks.
they're too much staring at their cell phone. And I have been known to yell out, stare at the clouds. They're a lot more interesting.
I love
Then
it. Thank you.
they're like
Yeah.
running the other direction. Ah, crazy. So, are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Um, it's an A or B um, collection of choices.
Yeah,
I'm almost, I'm going to just temporarily choose a C. And because my big fear is the management of either one is what fears me. Because I don't think there's anything fearful about old ideas or new ideas.
yeah,
But can we manage them?
yeah,
And it's an interesting thing because, um, I mean, look at our advertising. Our advertising, new and improved, and so everything is being um, pushed as being better if and only if it's new, which is
yeah,
not always the case. Um, in ancient times, there was a huge distrust of new things. And we can validate, for example, if we're in the I don't know, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, the Romans um, gave special allowances for certain religious groups because they had been around for a long time. And it is their ancient heritage that gave them credence within the empire. Um, right now, we look at, you know, old things and wonder if they're outmoded or not useful anymore. And so it's maybe a different thing. So I don't think either one is inherently fearful, but
Yeah.
just how we manage them.
Lou, that's the answer I want to get usually. I'm not afraid of ideas. It's the context, it's the individual idea. But they're like, well, war's been around too long. I'm afraid of that. And the first thing you were saying remind me of one of McLuhan's jokes. Guy walks into an antique store and goes, "What's new?"
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
Um, it's interesting. Yes, I think so. It's hard to verify because I don't have any other associated thoughts to anchor it to any moment of time. I remember though, and in conversations later, I learned that it was maybe I was 2. I remember my older brother was climbing on the ledge right below the picture window where a Christmas tree was, and he fell into the Christmas tree, and the
Yeah,
Christmas tree got knocked over. Not a big deal or anything. I just happen to remember that.
yeah,
And my older brother is like a couple years older than I am, so but it's very foggy. There's not a lot. It's just like this event happening, and it's more of an idea than an actual um, videotape, to use old terminology, of a sequence of events.
yeah. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Um, I think, well, again, like the old versus new idea, it depends how we use it.
Yep.
I would like to think that we can leverage the power of what we know about the past, whether that be a personal thing or kind of a communal thing. I don't think we always do a very good job of that, but I think it can be a blessing.
Yeah. It's like I met Keith, who introduced us through James Joyce Finnegan's Wake, and there's a line in the wake. It
Mm.
goes, "Remember to forget."
Ah, yes, yes,
So
yeah.
tell me someone within your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what was that impact?
Um, in my immediate family, I was so blessed with really good parents. And I loved my mom. She loved me. I loved my dad. He loved me. But just to kind of single out my dad, and I talked about kind of their adjacent influence on my life in terms of making me a reader. But my dad was very loving, and he taught me to love in ways that were not necessarily part of people around him. Um, and he was always able to see the best in people and try to get to that as common ground rather than ways that we could have squabbles, even people within the family. Probably my dad was such a positive, unconditional positive influence for me.
Really good, Lou. Again, you're concise and articulate. I appreciate this. Same question outside your immediate family, someone who had an impact, and what was the impact?
And yeah, um, I know I have an uncle that just recently died, and I hope that you're allowing someone that is an uncle to be
Oh, whatever. No, no.
classified. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And he I only saw him maybe 2 or 3 times a year generally, but his influence in my life is something that I will always be grateful for. And his wife, my aunt, is still around. She actually now lives fairly close to where I live now, and we talk about my uncle a lot. And you know, I miss him, but the impact he had on not just me, but hundreds and hundreds of people. He ended up being quite influential in ways that um, extend far beyond what his position in life was. Just impacted so many people.
I'll ask you too. You brought your wife on an interview on YouTube, and I was like, "That's cool." How long you been married, and what's your wife's impact on you?
Um, we've been married 10 years, and she is an exceptional woman with obviously very bad spouse selecting judgment. But she, and what, so in so many ways, um, she's been good. And, um, full disclosure, she's not my first marriage, but she has been, um, she has reintroduced me, and ever since we have been together, she has reintroduced me to the idea that love can be a part of my life, and ever flowing.
Yeah,
And it is. I used to look at those like you know marriage enrichment books, and they always have like a happy couple on the cover where they're sitting reading a magazine together with their arms around each other. And I thought, gosh, that's not realistic. But for Jen and me, it has been surprisingly, compared to what I had experienced, surprisingly good, and has given me a lot of faith in the institution of marriage. I
yeah,
mean, yeah.
cool. Now, did your parents raise you a particular religion?
Um, Not kind of adjacent to it. I mean, they actually met at a college that was church based, but very early on, they got family and they got busy with work, and so not really so much. Um, and but yet there was always this feeling inside that was not really um, almost like an expectation, not from them, but gosh, I ought to be religious, or I ought to be good, or somehow a life of faith is a way to live properly, or something like that. And that was something that was never really talked about. Um, Eventually, my father, as a mid-30s man, had a conversion experience or something, or a renewal. I don't know exactly how I would define that, but it made an impact on me. And you know, so yeah, I would say in that regard, it wasn't really part of my upbringing, but part of um, an explicit conversation only in my late adolescence.
Do you pray?
Yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't call myself a very good one, whatever that means. I know there are some people that are so disciplined in that, and to me, maybe more um, in a constant way. Like I was playing disc golf. Don't know what what that is,
Yeah.
but I was playing disc golf, and I was out with a guy, and I lost the disc, and we looked around for a few minutes. I finally found it, and I said, "Ah, thank God!" And I didn't mean that in any kind of like, "Oh, thank God." I meant that as a serious prayer. And he said, "Oh, okay, that's cool."
That's my favorite line is Louis Buñuel, the filmmaker. He goes, "Thank God I'm an atheist."
Yeah, right, right.
If Lou, but if God does exist, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
Um, cool.
Dude, that is so cool. No one says that. You know what 80% say? Oh, you did a good job. It's like, okay, I mean, cool is great. do, do evil people exist, or does the evil use people as a vehicle?
Yes, absolutely. You know, I really, I really want to believe that people are, when they go astray, whatever that means, when they hate people, when they kill people,
Yeah,
when they organize um, in order to make life awful for others. I want to think that that's a breakdown in systems,
yeah,
or there's some something wrong with brain cells or something. I don't know.
yeah,
Um, but the kind of like the stereotypical, oh, he's like Hitler kind of thing. There are
yeah,
so many people that are unbelievably good at organizing people to do bad things,
yeah.
and I, I, I I have to say that I think evil people just kind of do exist.
Yeah,
Although
it's
I think
like
maybe,
a lot of people say everybody's capable of being evil, because the other thing is they lean on is, well, they had a traumatic experience. So, but it is, is it a choice? So, I mean, this will flush it out a little more. How do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up. Coppola stole from the Mob and the Samurai: keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
closer, yeah.
Yeah, JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. Fellini says, I need an enemy. And Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. How would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
I don't think that's always true,
Yeah,
um, because I think we can acknowledge, and what was being said there, I think, is not just acknowledging the existence of our enemy, but the existence of their enemyhood in our life. And,
exact
you know,
enemyhood.
and yet to acknowledge that um, still gives us a response. Let me go back to uh, the words of Jesus, that we love our enemy. To
Yeah,
acknowledge them as an enemy does not necessarily constrain us to hate them.
yeah, really good point. Because, you know, um, the question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? If a friend comes up to you and say, I need advice, I'm being bullied, you know,
Mm.
what would you basically say to them?
To somebody being bullied or mistreated by somebody, and so often enemies are people that are in positions of power um, greater than ours.
Yep.
Um, and unfortunately, sometimes we don't have the resources to fight it.
Yeah.
Are there resources that we can uh, cope with the situation then internally?
Yeah.
I think, for example, Viktor Frankl, that you pointed out earlier, in a situation where he was subject to powers that, in a physical sense, he could not deal with, and yet he was still doing good things. Um, so, um, so I'm not sure getting into a power battle or a violent struggle with someone who has more power than we have is always the answer. I don't know. It's a tough question, Gerry.
Yeah.
Um,
And in the follow up is susses it out a little more. Like, what do we do about it? Lou, Nassim Taleb said, games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. Gregory Bateson says, if the criminal gets caught, does he go, whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff? Or does he go, oh, I did something morally or socially wrong? Again, it's a lot of prompts, but the basic question is, does punishment work?
I don't think most of the time. I think I don't have a lot of faith in our penal system.
Yeah.
And so the way it's implemented, I don't know that there's, well, for one thing, in the timeline of human history, I don't see a lot of progress in that area, in how having better and better people and less need for punishment along the way. So it clearly is not working.
Yeah, it's rehabilitation, but it is, we got to get someone off the street who's killing people. It's a hard thing. So James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
It's a good question. And I don't think watching a fiction precludes living life. So many times the medium is a form of communication that expresses things that the data download of that information could not do.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of I don't know, poetry, for example, can have an impact that that can move our hearts, make us be different people than if we would just say we should be kinder to our children. Okay, you tell somebody that may have limited impact, but sometimes an artistic expression is going to have more impact. And I think it's funny that James Joyce said what he said, because he was an artist.
Exactly. He did it through books because he wrote fiction. Yeah. So, I mean, it is, some Joyceans go, that's bullshit. He didn't say that. But it is it's more like Faulkner saying sometimes best fiction is more true than journalism. I mean,
that is definitely true. Well, I remember I took a class in grad school. We were reading Plato. Keith would love this, but we were reading Plato, and out of the blue, my professor asks the class, "Is the story in Genesis of the Garden of Eden, is that true?" And I started like, I don't, and there are some people that believe it's like a historic narrative. I don't happen to believe that, and I didn't at the time. But as I started to speak and almost like push the idea aside, I realized what she was asking was not, does it replicate a sequence of facts that actually happened, but rather, is there a statement of truth within that story?
Exactly.
And that is something that, as a fictional device, has some kind of impact, and it takes longer to unpack that. And so we wrap our brains around that more than if we would just, watch a tree, for example. And so I think there's this level of engagement where fictions, I don't mean fiction as an untrue story, but a fiction as a constructed artistic device that can teach us and transform us in ways that just experiencing reality as an objective entity can't do.
Lou, you wear a lot of hats. I know you're a pastor, a coach, you got your PhD, but you wrote this book and it's basically not fiction, it's nonfiction, right? Your book is nonfiction. And
Yeah.
so I'm curious, where's that tipping point in your life that you go, I want to be a pastor and then I want to be an author? Where's your two tipping points? What did you study? What was your PhD on?
Uh, Biblical studies, New Testament studies.
Yeah.
Um, and it was a good experience. It was when I started seminary, I thought I really wanted to focus in on the academic side of things. So I kind of had both in different periods of my history. The tipping point about wanting to write happened when I got my diagnosis. Really, I didn't really intend to retire. I thought I had a few years left. Actually moved the family from central Michigan to about a half hour west of Green Bay, Wisconsin, and out there 1 year, and then I get this diagnosis, and you're terminally ill. You might as well quit working. So I knew I couldn't function anymore because I had to start getting treatments. And it was actually when the treatment started to become effective, and it looked like I wasn't going to die inside the 10 months that was predicted at the time, that I could say, well, I can embrace this and maybe share this story of hope by writing a book.
Beautiful. In fact, you answered this question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. A screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process when you were writing your book?
I really want, being a memoir, maybe my intent needs to be visible. And so I
Yeah,
wouldn't, maybe it isn't so much a work of art as maybe I hope a work of inspiration.
yeah,
When a person gets a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer, the numbers are dismal. And yet, and this convention this summit that I'm just returning from, we had 20 people there who are survivors, statistically anomalous, just way out there, way outliers, all of us. And there's actually a group that's trying to put that data together that is trying to figure out what do all these survivors have in common. And maybe there's some helpful information behind all that. I think there probably is. My So when I wrote that, I really wanted my intent, and that is to embrace hope along that journey. I wanted that to be very visible
Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much were you thinking of your potential reader when you were writing your book?
throughout.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was a conscious decision because in my book, I talk a lot about sports. I knew that because I love sports. In fact, one of the things that Keith and I used to do is we played basketball a lot together.
Oh,
I love that
wow.
man, by the way. He's very cool. But I knew including sports might limit the application of a lot of readers because, well, I don't do sports, so I'm not going to read this. So I tried not to make that a requirement, but just a vehicle to communicate.
Yeah. And McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness, like knife and fork extends our teeth, shutter and a camera extends our eyelid, or even non-tangible, say religion or philosophy might extend consciousness. What does the writing utensil extend for you? Whether it's a pen or a keyboard, what humanness did the writing utensil extend for you?
Yeah, that's a great thing to think about. It going back to some of the early questions, thoughts and feelings. I would like to think that it extends thoughts and feelings
Yeah.
and is able to communicate them, but also not just the thoughts and feelings, but uh, events and things that other people could not otherwise have experienced without looking at the text. And one of the advantages of being able to write, whether it be with a computer or a pen, paper, or whatever, is that it allows me the opportunity of being able to organize that narrative in ways that speaking extemporaneously cannot do. Um, and in the reading process, it also affords the reader the opportunity to go back and reread that and say, what did he say there? And so you can do that. Whereas listening to me talk, sometimes, I mean, your YouTube audience here can rewind and listen to what I say again. But in live conversation, it is not really feasible most of the time. So there are advantages. It extends that whole process of talking, I guess, and living and thinking.
Yeah, Lou, it's I'm talking about narrative and storytelling here too. Of experimental filmmaker House Frampton said, narrative is born among the animal necessities of the spirit because we're waiting to die. My question to you is, can you forget to die?
Not as much as I used to, right?
Not as
Every day.
much.
Yeah, I actually on my website, I every month or two I have a reflection. Most of the time, it's about that experience of dealing with whatever adjacent issues there are to living with cancer, but not always. But one of the things I started writing, it's not out there yet, is um, consciously thinking about mortality, not as an inevitability, but as a limitation to living in the moment. For example, most of my life, um, I've really enjoyed preparing for that next thing.
Yeah.
But if you take that next thing away, it seems pointless for me to, I don't know, hypothetically go back to grad school right now,
Yeah.
because numbers would indicate that, well, gosh, you're not going to have time to utilize that, whatever you grow from or whatever credential you get from that experience. So, it's something that I think about, and actually, I try to be optimistic about, the days I have ahead, but it does affect how I think about the future and the numbers of days that I might have.
It's funny. I spoke with this guy who knew Bob Dylan when they were in high school together, and then he worked for him a little. And a very interesting guy. And he told me there's a difference between narrative and storytelling. And he said that narrative doesn't lie. I'm just curious, is there a difference for you between storytelling and narrative? And would you agree or disagree that narrative does not lie?
I would have to know how those terms are defined, because I studied narrative a lot. That was a big part of my graduate work, and there are a lot of devices that a person can use writing a narrative, where the narrative, it kind of does lie. You have the dishonest narrator, for example. A lot
Yeah,
of detective stories, whodunits, are intentionally misleading to the audience, and sometimes they are left, even at the end, ambiguous. And so, yeah, I don't agree that the narrative can't lie. I think they certainly can, but maybe for a specific purpose.
yeah. This is Shelby Foote. I'm curious your reaction. A fact is not a truth until you love it.
Yeah, that might be true.
Yeah.
Um, well, unless there are implications of that fact that are objectively going to happen, even if I don't love it. For example, I don't love the fact that it's raining right now,
Yeah.
and it's still raining right now.
Yeah.
Um, does that make it a fact, or that's not a truth? I don't know. It would stretch. It would push me to stretch either the meaning of a fact or a truth in order for me to agree with that, I think.
Well, it's really been a delight. We got about 30 more minutes, but I've loved the immediacy of you sitting in a car, not even seeing your room with the background. And the lighting's been fine, but it was fun to see the sky turn blue into black. And
Yeah.
this is Eartha Kitt. Truth is not a theory. No, excuse me. Truth is a theory that is constantly being disproved. Only lies, it seems, go on forever. And you can comment on that. It's the basic question is from Marcel Proust. On what occasion do you lie?
On what occasion do I lie? Right now, I never lie. I never lie. So yeah, um,
But
it
back to
is.
Eartha saying only lies, it seems, go on forever.
Isn't that weird that untruth is so persistent?
Yeah,
And we do such a good job as a species um, disseminating them to those after us. Um, yeah, and it's very Thomas Kuhn-like to say, truth. I mean, science always builds these paradigms for the way things work,
yeah,
and they're solidly in place until we learn something, and then they're no longer in place. So we have to, at least erase parts of the chalkboard and rewrite on it.
yeah. Well, that's Niels Bohr said the opposite of a fact is a falsehood, but the opposite of a true proven truth may be another truth. So
Yes.
it's just that snake eating its tail or a Mobius strip. But
Yeah.
yeah. I love this one. Louis Buñuel says, I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it. Now, most everybody goes, I think that's great. And one guy finally said, that's bullshit, because if I'm going to seek something, it's because I want to find it. And so I morphed it into this question. If the journey is more important than the destination, why do we have to name or seek a destination?
Hmm. Hmm. Huh. What car company was it that talked about enjoying the journey or whatever? I can't,
Yeah.
as part of their slogan.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm going to use this to kind of set up this metaphor. When I go a place, I want to get there. I don't. Oh, it was enjoy the ride. Who was it that said enjoy the ride? Was it Nissan or I can't remember. But anyway, I don't usually enjoy the ride. I want to get there. So
Yeah.
in a sense, I kind of, if there, I guess the difference and the thing that keeps me seeking for truth, even if it is something that I know I will have to re-seek, is I am happy not having closure.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
that's
when I get there, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
Yeah,
That's yeah.
yeah. So when I get there, um, it is great to have what I have and to grow, but I don't know that I really want that growth to stop.
Yeah. It's amazing because again, most people go, you got to have a destination because you got to have a focus. And it's like, no, the flaneurs, psychogeography in the 20s in Paris, Picasso and Hemingway, they're just sitting at coffee houses being slackers. And Joyce said it. He said, epiphanies and everydayness. Now I know
Yeah.
they all went and accomplished things, but it is, you can find a lot in just wandering aimlessly. There's not this whole thing about that. But since you brought up the word metaphor, I have to ask you this one, Lou. You're a smart dude, and McLuhan says every word is metaphorical. All words are metaphorical. So my question to you is, what is the word literal a metaphor for?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that question because we were talking in a little group that I lead. Um, we were reading some very symbolic literature, and I pointed out that all words are already symbols anyway. So to read anything literally, and we actually talked about this, to read anything literally is impossible, because to see the word dog on a page, that is not a dog. And so, and it is a little more abstract when we start talking about adjectives and adverbs and pronouns and prepositions. But there is, literally, I think, is maybe just is a concept that uh, brings us closer to what might be thought of as a dictionary understanding of what those words are metaphors for.
Yeah, I missed the word before. Understanding brings us closer to a what understanding?
A dictionary understanding of it.
Oh, a dictionary understanding. Yes, closer to a
Yeah,
dictionary understanding. Yeah.
yeah, and I know by saying that is woefully inadequate,
No,
because
that's good. It's like
yeah,
people are stumped because it sounds like a Zen koan. One guy says it's a metaphor for light, and another guy said it's a metaphor for letter. That's more like yours. The letter symbolizes, that's a symbol. So
yeah.
what's more important, Lou? Conviction or compromise?
This this is also a question that I have given a lot of airtime to, because well, the man that I pointed out that in my immediate family was a big impact, my father, was a man of conviction. Um, when he was grumpy, that morphed into stubbornness. And so it's a fine line maybe between the two. And in a situation of conflict, especially, compromise seems to be um, important. And the thing of it is, I think sometimes people claim to be principled when they're stubborn, because they're not budging. Um, let's say we are legislators in a major world power, and we have to come up with a budget, and we're talking about trying to pass this budget, but neither one of us wants to budge. I mean, it's okay to be principled and stick to our convictions about principles. I think it is less um, laudable to dig in our heels for some of the associated details of how those convictions are manifested.
Really good. In your accomplishments in your life, how do you rate these three elements overall? Luck, skill, and ambition. What played the biggest role, second and third?
um, it is hard to discount. And I don't know if I believe in luck, but kind of like a common understanding of it is that when things beyond your control happen favorably to you, um, there is a concept in mathematics called expected value. So if you flip a coin twice, you would expect to have it land on tails once. You do it 1,000 times, you would expected value for heads would be 500 of those 1,000. When I got my cancer diagnosis, I always complained about being an unlucky sort. And my family, when I started surviving, my family told me, you were just saving up EV so that you would have luck in the cancer treatments. And so it is hard to poo-poo luck anymore, because I'm alive as a statistical outlier. Um, uh, so, and even to have been brought up in a loving family where I was given the opportunity to hone skills, get a good education, I worked really hard. But a lot of people who work really hard don't have the kind of opportunities that I did. I don't know if
Yeah.
you'd attribute that to luck, but I will say this to kind of summarize that.
Yeah.
When there are opportunities, where whichever they are, whichever the stream is in which we get those opportunities, I just want to take advantage of them.
That's the Gary Player, the golfer, said the more you practice, the luckier you get.
Yes, yes.
That's a little bit of EV happening there. You taught me a new term. A poet said that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
Um, I talked earlier tonight about those narratives. Sometimes they're false narratives, and sometimes they can have damaging effects on my uh, emotional um, state. Um, Sometimes the prevailing inner dialogue is that narrative that I'm telling myself. And so I need to do a much better job of continuing to tell myself good narratives, things that have a positive outcome. And so what my inner dialogue is something I'm working on. I'll
Yeah,
say that.
it's good. Two of my film heroes say, ignore yourself. Jonas Mekas, there's no self expression. And jazz pianist Cecil Taylor said, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making more self expression or more your vehicle for whatever technologies, environments, and cultures are dominant?
I think different artists highlight either one of those in different ways. Some as a as a creator, and I do like to create music. I have a son that is very gifted, and he has lots of great musical ideas. He has found a way to express himself using these technologies that are available to him
Yeah,
in ways that make him produce music that his skill set would not be capable otherwise of doing. The ideas maybe were already there, but maybe not. Maybe the technology that he's using, the way he's manipulating them, allowed an expression of an idea to come out that would not have naturally flowed through him.
amazing.
So, you know, I, I think it's a lot of both, but I think different artists.
Yeah.
Uh, One of those comes to the fore in maybe different ways.
Really, hidden question is, can art making be egoless?
Ego less.
Yeah, egoless, LESS.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. um, I don't think so, but I also don't think that um, ego manifestation in an artistic creation is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that means that the artist is necessarily a bragger. They might be, they might think they themselves are um, God's primary gift to creation, but not necessarily. And I think the expression of art um, needs to somehow manifest who that person is, whether intentionally contrary to what they think they're doing or not. That ego, I think, needs to be a component of that.
Tell me one major element of your Lewness, who you are and what you've done that stayed the same in the years you've been doing your thing, and one major element that's changed.
Okay. Um, I am inherently a left brain person. I see the world. Um, the way I see the world is affected by that. Any um, intuitive sense that I develop about things happens because I've taken a set of logical cognitions and I've been able to manipulate them in ways that look intuitive, but maybe really aren't. It's almost like they finally created a computer program that can play Go really well.
Yeah.
it looks like human Go player that's very, very good. Um, but it's all a ruse. It is still just a lot of uh, plus and positive and
Yeah.
zero bits, ones and zeros, still firing so well that it looks intuitive. And that's kind of the area in my life that I've spent a lot of time trying to grow, trying to enhance my ability to appear to be an intuitive person.
Yeah. Well, that you sort of answered that, but I'm going to ask this question anyways. Moshe Feldenkrais, he talks about he works with healing and movement, and he talks about how it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Well, that might be one of them, as you indicated. Uh,
But
but
yeah,
another
being left, just to interrupt, being left-brained isn't necessarily a weakness. That's what.
no,
But
but having go ahead.
no, that you go ahead. I was just saying that
Yeah,
there might be another example, but that I didn't mean to imply that was. Yeah,
no, right, but it's that area of not really be, and not having an instinctive sense of intuition. Sometimes it means that I don't have, you know, I might not read the mood in a room or something like that
yeah,
um, instinctively, but I can develop tools that do that. But maybe the area that more strongly defines an answer to the question that you just asked is I tend to be introverted to the point where being around people a lot exhausts me. But because of my profession, especially as a pastor, I had to be in front of people and had to at least appear to be um, an outgoing,
yeah,
um, sometimes even maybe a type A personality because that's what people are expecting, or I have to, generate some kind of energy in the room. And so I've identified that as a weakness, and I have been able to leverage my understanding of the social situation in ways that, I think in my career have proven to be um, maybe effective, if I could say it that way.
yeah. Very good. Fill in the blank, Lou. Anger can be a productive emotion when.
Mm. Um, when it is recognized and managed well.
Yeah,
Sometimes anger. I, I, I don't like this idea that, and you see this especially in some movies from the 50s or 60s where the man was expected to be, brutal to the, weaker people around him. Um, excuse me. But I lost my earbud. But if we can manage that, we
yeah,
can recognize that we are angry, and it's okay to be angry, but
yeah.
we need to control that and manage it.
It's funny because
Excuse me.
I used to ask the question, can anger be a productive emotion? And then my friend said, no, that's just a yes or no. That's a closed question. If you open it up, what's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
Mm. I would almost, excuse me, my throat has gotten dry. I would almost hesitate to answer that um, because maybe it assumes some generalizations that I'm maybe not willing to make.
Yeah.
And I don't know how. And well, especially if somebody comes back and looks at this in 40 years, I don't want to say, oh my gosh, that Lew Worthington guy, that didn't age well. So, so,
But
so
that's the answer I want to hear. Actually, a lot of people go the normal left and right brain thing. Men are linear left brain, women are right and intuitive, but it was good. Here's 5 quick Alan Watts questions off the top of your head in just a couple words. 1, who started it all? Good laugh. Good laugh.
Oh, who started it all? Let me be evasive and philosophical. God.
2, are we going to make it?
Yeah.
3, where do we put it?
Close to us.
4, who's cleaning it up?
Our kids.
5, is it serious?
It's critical.
It's critical. Way to shift the word, dude. I like that, because a lot of people go, it's both serious and not serious, but critical, that, because Zappa said it well, I'm very serious about being not serious.
Indeed. I like that. Yeah.
Lou, how do you find peace of mind?
I don't think it's the best approach because sometimes it's not the right response, but sometimes time, I just got to give it time. When I get frustrated at maybe the way I've done something or handled something, and I feel weird or embarrassed or guilty about something for several days, it eventually does go away. It's hard for me to find peace of mind through any overt intentional acts that make that go away any faster.
Really good. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Mm. I'm trying to give myself enough credit as a 12-year-old, but it's hard to do. I want to say, don't be stupid. But I mean, my dad probably told me that, and I didn't listen to him. And it's hard. It's hard for me because, again, this is something I've given conscious airtime to, and that is, if I had to do it again, would I do it any differently? And
No.
I think about those moments in college, for example. I would like to think that I could do better a second time, but I remember reading this biology textbook, and because of the way my brain works, I had a test to study for, and I kept falling asleep. I could not not fall asleep because I was just falling asleep. How could I do any differently?
Yeah. Well, I still like what you want God to say to you. Cool. If I met myself as a 12-year-old, I go, cool.
Yes, that's a good answer. I should have said that.
Yeah,
Would the 12-year-old say the same thing to me?
Yeah, and it's like, is that word still going to be cool to say cool? Probably.
Far out, man.
If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed, and what would it be made of?
That's a very off the wall and wonderful question. I like that. So that assumes then that I've done something enough that somebody with enough financial resources to bring this about could accomplish that. So I would want it to be made out of stone. I don't know. I don't deserve that. In front of a library.
Oh, I like that. Stone and library. That's close to mine. I like that.
I was going to say paper mache, but that wouldn't last the weather,
What's a cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
um, I know there were a lot of people that looked at like the '80s as not very. I don't know. I've heard different criticisms of that. I think there is a lot of earnestness among people. Um, there are obviously counterexamples, even groups of people that are counterexamples to this, but I think there is a lot of earnestness where people are really trying to figure it out. Um, Maybe, to go back to those 5 quick questions because they don't want their kids to be left cleaning it up.
Yeah.
And so I love the willingness to keep seeking solutions to our collective issues.
What's a question that remains unresolved for you?
Oh, um, I can see this in two senses. One is like what's kind of a shared global question that is important to me, or what is a specific personal individual question that I have. And I have both. And being inspired by the weekend that I just had, one of the big questions, we talked a lot about this because our group that sponsored the weekend is about raising money for pancreatic cancer research. So what's the answer to that? How are we going to fix that? How are we going to make that? And our goal is to make pancreatic cancer a thing of the past, right?
Yeah.
I know some people have said that cancer is not ever going to end, but we have tools that can make it less impactful in a negative sense. And some of those are early detection, which it's very hard for pancreatic cancer. For my
Yeah.
personal issues, there are sometimes when I still have extreme self-esteem issues that sometimes manifest themselves in ways that are not ways that I am proud of. So
Yeah.
I would like to find that key. I've talked to, again, TMI, but therapists that said, tell yourself this good narrative. This is a theme that's come up several times. Well, I try to, but I
Yeah.
still don't have the answer to what narrative is going to always be there for me to encourage myself with.
It's really good, Lou. The person I talked to yesterday emphasized this word. Well, similar to yours, listen, be alert, but his other word was self-care. And I love that.
Yes,
Self-care is just like so down to earth and it's
it's
not an ego.
beautiful.
It's not self-indulgence. It's self-care and it's really universal. So that was
Absolutely. That's very good. Yeah.
two things. How has being a pastor shaped your behavior, and how has writing your book shaped your behavior?
Okay. Um, Being a pastor is interesting because um, at points you think you're always on stage, and I know it's probably less of an issue now because I think there's probably less judgment in the general population than there used to be. But I do know that a lot of people would kind of look at pastors waiting for them to screw up so they could point and say, see,
Yeah,
whatever you believe, whatever you live, it isn't valid. I'm
yeah,
not really worried about that anymore. But especially in my early years, I really tried to behave, unfortunately, tried to behave the way that I thought other people thought I should behave.
yeah.
Instead, and there's some huge level of inauthenticity there. Um, Writing the book has kind of shifted my focus. So my book is about embracing hope when statistically there's uh, you know hope is hard to come by, and it is a book that I've in one sense kind of wrote to myself because I want to continue maybe expanding and deepening my relationship with hope.
It's really good. This poet critic, Helen Vendler, she died last year. She goes, I write to explain things to myself.
Indeed. Indeed. That's perfect.
Gordon Wilder, 1928, said, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
Like a lot of people, I don't think I'm unique in this desire, but I would love for whatever I have done in my time on Earth to outlast my body.
Yeah.
And whether it be the impact that I have had on my kids or those around me, or even those that I've met in the last year, even if they don't recognize that I was any influence at all,
Yeah.
I hope that I was in such a way that there's some good that has come about because I've lived, that will continue and replicate even after I'm gone.
Yeah. It's like Paul Krasner says, I only believe in reincarnation in one of my past lives.
That's excellent.
Yeah, Lou, you taught me a lot today, and I appreciate it. The last question is, what gives you the most optimism?
Um, okay, let me. There's this literary device called inclusion, where
Yeah,
you start and end a block of text with the same thought. Let me go back to item number one, and that is love. I think the fact that we still have this capability of loving, uh, Jerry, you're a great vehicle for that, and I appreciate what you do. Um,
thank
and if we can keep that going, there's no reason to be pessimistic.
Yeah, you're really evoking the great songwriter Eden Abe. He wrote a song called Nature Boy. In the line, and it's been sung by everybody, and it still is one of the great songs of all time. And the line in the song is, the greatest thing you'll ever learn is to love and be loved in return. And that's what you started with. You started because, the first question I ask is, what is the best thing for a human being? And you said love and talking, you emphasize talking with people. And Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being. And the last question I ask is, what gives you the most optimism? And Groucho Marx said, other people. So it's,
Yeah,
that's what it's all about, is you can't have love without another person. And it's all about
you got it.
community, family. And so it's sure been fun spending this time with another person, especially because it was you, Lou, in your car. This reception was really good. And I really appreciate how present you were. Thank you
Uh,
so much.
Jerry, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate you, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah. And even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever.
Forever. All right. Hey, man, love you, brother.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.